Hey there, and welcome to the Business of Business podcast. Here we are two daughters and their dad, seeking to inspire and educate you to follow your dreams of being in business by teaching you the business of being in business. The good, the bad, the humor are all parts of our unique perspective as an entrepreneurial family. Thanks for joining us. So grab a coffee, turn up the volume. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. I am your host, Staci Joy Dempsey. The J is very important. It brings the joy. And I am joined here today with my dad, Jack Dempsey, my sister, Jennifer Dempsey. And today we want to talk about answering the question, why start a business? So, Jack, I want to start with you. Why start a business?
Well, first, I want to just talk about why. I think that's the most critical question any entrepreneur can answer. Why? And the reason I say that is because people have ideas about businesses, start businesses, and really develop the how to do the business, but never take the necessary time to determine the why. And the reason the why is so important is because when the challenges come, and they will come, any entrepreneur knows that there's going to be a lot of challenges. There's going to be a lot of setbacks. And in most cases, the how you do your business is not going to help you. You have to go back to your why. You have to go back to, this is why I'm doing this. And in most cases, the why is not, or let me put it this way, a strong why is not about money. So if your why is, I want to build a business and make a lot of money, then that's probably not going to get you through those challenging times, because everybody wants to make a lot of money. And so when you run up against challenges, that's probably not going to help you. It needs to be a why that is more impactful. It could be freedom. It could be that you want to be in a position to educate your children so they will never have any debt. It could be, providing impact in your community's life and how your community operates. Something that really has a deep-seated meaning. It could be to create jobs for people, things like that. That is usually the better themes for your why. But you have to answer that question first. And if you do that, then you stand a much better chance of facing and surviving the headwinds that entrepreneurship is surely going to bring.
Yeah, that's great. I know something that I've heard is when you just, what one person's why might be for starting a business, you think might be universal. So some people will say, well, my kids are my why. I'm doing this for my kids. And there's nothing wrong with the next person saying, listen, I love my kids, but they're not pushing me forward to want to, really create this business. It's something else. So, Jennifer, why did you start your business? What's your why every day when things are really, really tough?
As we're talking about this topic, I have a memory pop into my head. I worked in a salon for 7-8 years before I went and started my own business. And one thing that was important to me in the salon atmosphere was fundraising. And I always came to the salon owner with ideas for fundraising, a cut-a-thon, or, whatever charity spoke to me at the time. And I always got pushed back. I always got no. And I felt like I had to sell the idea not only to the salon owner, but to the staff. And at the end of the day, it was just pulling teeth. So I always thought, when I own my own salon, fundraising is going to be a non-negotiable situation for me. I just feel like as hairstylists, we get to do what we absolutely love to do, and we're blessed to do it. And we should give back as much as possible. And so that's a big why in my atmosphere right now.
So the why, part of the why is, having the freedom to participate in doing fundraisers and giving back and participating in the community in that capacity. Is that
Absolutely.
what I hear you say?
Absolutely.
Right. That's definitely very, very powerful. I'm going to bounce it back to you, Jack. 35 plus years in the same industry, obviously lots of ups and downs. So what is the why? And actually, I'm curious to know, has the why changed over the years?
Well, that's a great question, because I think it has changed. I mean, certainly starting out, my why in those early years was really understanding that, I could easily quit the insurance business because of how hard it was and go to work for someone else at a salary which would have been much more comfortable at the time. But for some reason, deep down, I knew that was not going to be fulfilling for me. That working for someone else, even though there's nothing wrong with that, but for me, I just didn't want my destiny to be in someone else's hands. I wanted, the opportunity to create something, and I was just fortunate. I got into the insurance business right out of college, and it wasn't really a huge dream of mine to get into that business. But for whatever reason, that's where I landed right out of school, and I could quickly see that if this business of insurance was done correctly, it could just have impact in so many different ways. It could have impact certainly in my own life through building something that I could look back on and be very proud of. It would have impact in clients' lives because of the service and the professionalism and the competency that we could bring into their lives. And then certainly for staff and employees and hiring people and allowing them to fulfill their dreams that they have for themselves and for their families. So early on, it was really just kind of not wanting to be, in or have my destiny in someone else's hands. But now it has changed. I mean, certainly I look at things differently. I have grandkids that I want to be able to do some things for. I have charities that I want to help and have impact with. So there's just a lot of other things at this point in my life, but the why is still there in a very significant way, and that's what gets me up every morning to, with a lot of motivation and eagerness to get in there and attack the day.
So when someone establishes then their why, what do you think is the turning point of starting a business then? Is it, they identified the why, then kind of what comes next?
Well, I don't know how to answer that right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think that one of the other questions you would ask yourself, after establishing your why, is the business going to be able to do that? Is it going to get you there? If your why is to take a startup business and provide a product or service that's unique, well, do you picture it and can you see it growing to be something big enough and meaningful enough to achieve your why? So you have to have that vision that it can get you there. So it has to have enough scale to be able to get you where you want to go and achieve that why.
Great. So right now there's a lot of jobs being lost to technology. There's a much younger workforce coming, in that are looking for jobs. They're looking for flexibility. Um, and I guess a lot of people would be asking, is now the time? Is now the time to start a business? Even if I have a strong why, is now still the time? What would be your immediate thought?
Well, I think it comes back to being passionate. Obviously, I talk to a lot of different people on a daily basis, and one thing that I find is there's a lot of people very miserable in their workplace, and we talk about that often in the salon. Is being happy working, which we all spend a lot of time doing, means more than being miserable and comfortable, right? So I think at any point, if you're going after something that you're passionate about, you can't stop thinking about, then there's no better time to do it than right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know that I have more than a handful of clients that, they've had the big corporate jobs. They've made a lot of money over the years and they've saved a lot of money, but their deep down passion was maybe working with horses and training horses. And, they kind of always did that on the side. And then here they end up leaving what maybe other people would consider a dream job with a dream income. And they kind of just had a turning point where they were just done with it. And they went and bought that farm out, not living in the city any longer, went out and bought the farm and just started doing kind of what they've always wanted to do. But at the heart, they're still business people. They still understand numbers and they were able to create a business around their passion. And so, yeah, back to your point, there's a lot of people that are miserable and they have a lot of money and maybe have had good jobs and a lot of education, but that's still it's not what they ultimately want to do every day.
Well, that's right. And I want to stay with that question though a little bit longer because I think if you're just coming into that entrepreneurship idea and starting to think through it, you have to come into it realizing that there is going to be a significant amount of pain associated with it. I mean, it is hard. It's tough. So I just, again, don't want anybody to come into entrepreneurship underestimating how hard it is. And again, what the significance of your why should be in order to help you get through that really grueling time of getting your business up and running. And so Jennifer, alluded to it, Staci, when she said about, being happy. I mean, if the business that you're thinking of doing does not have the potential to get you where you want to be in your why, then you really have to make sure that you and make a decision, because Jennifer, you'd be the first to tell anybody that it becomes your life. Your business becomes your life,
right?
And so it has to be a why that you're willing to dedicate your life to. So why don't you just give a couple examples of how your business has become your life?
Right. Well, I think the first thing I want to say is when you set out to be an entrepreneur, I feel like there's a level of pressure that you have to work well with. I always say, I work best under pressure. That doesn't mean that it's easy, but you have to be able to take the pressure that owning a business gives you. It was very easy for me to be behind the chair working 40, 50 hours a week because I love to talk to people. I love to do people's hair, make people happy, feel better about themselves leaving the salon when they came in. And then as soon as I put my name on the sign, the pressure changed. And it went from being behind the chair to not only being behind the chair 40, 50 hours a week, but being in that back office, figuring out how to be in the business of hair. And that became 7 days a week, no days off. It's really still 3 years in, that's still what's happening. And the first year of owning a business, I didn't take one penny from the business. Everything that I made behind the chair went right back into the business. So yes, you need a strong why, because when you are working harder than you've ever had in your whole life and you're not making any money, very quickly you can say, okay, let me go work for somebody else, right?
That's great. So I have a quick question. It just popped into my head. So people will say, well, if you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. Would you say that's true or false?
False. False. Only because I can truly say I love my job. But it's unrealistic to think that you're not going to have bad days, that you're not going to want to run away and cry. In any business, that's going to happen. But the difference is, do you run away and cry forever? Or do you, okay, let me cry it out one night. Tomorrow I'm going to get back at it. So you're not always going to love everything that you're doing 24/7. But back to, is your why strong enough to pull you through the hardships of whatever the business will bring?
Right. And I think that's really the premise behind what we're doing here, is that you can love what you do. As Jennifer said, she loves to do hair. But the business side of things is completely different. I love being, in front of a client and talking and, hearing what their concerns are and being able to build a plan to help them navigate their financial picture or other things that they're dealing with. I love doing that. That is not work. But then I've got to step out of that and step into the business of what I do. And so that's where the challenge, I think, and that's, again, the reason for this podcast. You have to understand that you can love what you do, but you'll completely underestimate how hard the business of doing what you love can be.
Wow. Well said, Jack. Well said. Well, any final thoughts? I think that's a great note to maybe wrap this podcast up on, but any other final thoughts on why start a business?
Well, yeah, there's a lot more thoughts on why start one. There's, a couple things I would say for people who are looking to do it, because, there's a lot of people who believe they want to be entrepreneurs, that they want to be in the business of something. They have visions of that. They dream of being their own boss. They dream of having their name on a sign. They dream of, the freedom that being an entrepreneur can bring. But many people don't ever take action on it. So, and the reason usually is because, they either have fear that they're going to fail, or they're just not ready to take that step financially. And so for those of you out there who are maybe just in school now or been out of school for a little while, and you think that you want to go down the road of entrepreneurship, then my best recommendation to you is to commit to living lean so that you can put as much money away to build margin, to position yourself financially to go into business. Jennifer mentioned that she started her business, did not take one penny from her business for the first year. Now, the reason she was able to do that was why, Jen?
because when I opened my business, I moved back home and lived with my mom at, how old was I then? 26 years old. I cut all of my expenses to the bare bones of what I could possibly do. Now, obviously, as a hairstylist, I get paid in tips, so I did have a little bit of money to pay my car payment, but not much more than that. So,
because what I find is that, people come out of, especially younger people coming out of school, and they feel this pressure that they have to kind of jump into life, that they just spent all this time getting educated and they have to kind of jump into life and get caught up. They need to get that job with a salary, and next thing you know, they're buying a new car and living in a somewhat expensive apartment. And, so they're feeling like that's where I should be, even though in their gut, in their heart, they know too that they would like to be in business for themselves. So, but they're now get into this kind of this, place where all the money they're making is going out, not because of really to make them happy, but because that's what they feel like everybody expected of them. So I would just say that if you believe you want to pursue entrepreneurship, then you need to get lean. You need to reduce expenses. I call it living at the end of the toothpaste tube. Because if you ever get a brand new thing of toothpaste, you load that toothbrush up with toothpaste. But when all of a sudden you wake up and you've squeezed it down, it's amazing how much less toothpaste you really need to brush your teeth. And that's how you have to do your life, because you need to have some margin. The reason people don't go down the road of entrepreneurship is fear. And one of the things that can take the fear away is to have financial margin to where you know that you can survive with what you need on savings and maybe some other people's help, while you're getting your business off the ground. And so, again, go lean, and then you'll be able to go in business.
Great. Jen, any final thoughts on why start a business?
Yeah, I think we talk a lot about how hard it is to start a business, how scary it is. But I want to encourage anyone who has the heart to be an entrepreneur to just go for it. Do what you have to do. Figure it out. There's no plan in place on start here, do this, and this is what you do next. You just have to start. And if you believe in yourself, you believe in the dream, then don't let fear deter you from going for it.
Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you guys for joining us on our podcast, and we look forward to seeing and talking to y'all soon. We want to thank you for listening today. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a positive review. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Dempsey, Weiss Associates and J.Faith Hair Studio.